Hello everyone and welcome to our 70th episode of In the Trenches, Flaw's weekly cyber threat intelligence briefing. Today is the 30th of September and my name is George Glass, an Associate Managing Director in the Cyber Threat Intelligence team. Joining me today from the CTI team are Ryan Hicks, Mukesh Nagar and Sarah Becker. As always, we'll be covering the most recent trends that our threat intelligence team is witnessing in the trenches. So let's get into the situation report. An investigation has revealed the extent of government accounts leaked on deep and dark web. A widespread data breach has exposed personal information of numerous government officials across the US, UK, and Europe on dark web marketplaces. In the US, over 3,000 congressional staffers were affected, with nearly 20% having personal data leaked, including 18,000 passwords. The situation is also critical in the UK, where over 2/3 of searched MP email addresses appeared on dark web markets, with some MPs' data exposed up to 30 times. European Parliament members also faced significant exposure, with 44% of checked MEPs having information leaked. Of French officials, 18% had been affected. The breaches stemmed from officials using government email addresses to register on various third-party platforms, which was subsequently compromised. The practices led to the exposure of passwords, date of birth, and other sensitive data. The affected individuals include senior government officials with access to highly sensitive information, raising concerns about potential national security implications. Both Proton and Constellar Intelligence, who uncovered these breaches, stressed the critical need for improved cybersecurity practices amongst government personnel. And of course, the same must be said for corporate cybersecurity also. It doesn't just go for government there. Users using their corporate access on third-party websites could suffer the same thing. In our second situational awareness report today, those in the UK may have noticed that Wi-Fi services on national rail services suffered a Wi-Fi portal defacement. On September 25th, the public Wi-Fi systems at 20 UK railway stations were compromised. Network Rail confirmed that the stations, including London Euston, Manchester, Piccadilly, and Edinburgh Waverley, were affected, with users being redirected to a screen displaying messages about terror attacks in Europe. As of September 26th, Network Rail has suspended the Wi-Fi service provided by third-party company Telent, while British Transport Police arrested an individual on the same day. It's currently unknown exactly what was trying to be achieved by these attacks. While the threat actors could have access to phish station Wi-Fi users en masse or deliver malware, the display of seemingly politically motivated messages suggested the actors did not have the capability to conduct such attacks, would rather spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Remember, if you have any questions or comments, please get in touch with us using cti@crawl.com. That's cti@crawl.com. So let's get into the rest of today's briefing. I'm going to cover a new Linux printing vulnerability. Ryan is going to cover some LUMMASTEALER developments. Mukesh will discuss how threat actors are using generative AI. And of course, we will finish with the ransomware roundup from Sarah. Now, flaws in CUPS, or the Common Unix Printing System, have been disclosed last week. A set of critical unauthenticated remote code execution vulnerabilities were discovered by researcher Simone Margaritelli, aka EvilSocket of Ponagotchi fame, I think. This affects open printing CUPS, potentially affecting all GNU Linux systems running the CUPS software. These vulnerabilities allow a remote attacker to execute arbitrary code on a target system without valid credentials or prior access. However, to exploit the vulnerability, user input is required to make a print job to a malicious print service, and a technical write-up and POC code was posted on the 26th of September. And I'll take you through how that exploit chain works in just a second. A prime run CUPS. CUPS is the standard printing system for many Unix-like operating systems, such as Linux and also Mac OS. It allows a computer to function as a print server, managing print jobs and queues, and supporting network printing through IPP, or Internet Printing Protocol. 4 vulnerabilities came out of this. I won't read all of them out, but they affect different components of the printing service in Linux. Core CTI was able to reproduce the POC and was successful in executing commands on a standard Ubuntu desktop install. Interestingly, a social engineering tactic has been used in the POCs that are appearing on GitHub since the release of the technical write-up, as an attacker is able to set the name of the malicious printer. Many proof of concept exploits have set the name to something like print to PDF, which is much more likely to be used on Linux workspace setting. Let's be honest about that. Not too many people print from Linux systems, but printing to PDF is much more likely. We have a few recommendations here, and there's more detail in the report itself. Disable and or potentially remove the CUP service if it's not needed. Update CUPS packages and the related components to the latest version. All of that is covered in the weekly. And also something that is fairly staggering is the amount of print ports that are open to the internet on UDP port 631. So be sure that that is firewalled off. So just a quick explainer on how the vulnerability itself works. So we have an attacker set up a malicious print server. The attacker connects to a victim machine on port 631, which then registers that as an available printer. Yes, that's right. An attacker can just connect to that port and tell it it's a printer. The user does not need to request that. The user prints to the malicious print server. A remote command embedded in the CUPS filter is then executed as root, and a malicious process or whatever process the attacker wants is spawned from fumatic RIP. So potentially some good threat hunting ideas there for that one. I'll hand over now to Ryan to take us through LUMMASTEALER. Ryan, over to you.
Thanks, George. Hi, everyone. So the SOC here at Crawl have recently detected and remediated a string of incidents that have involved social engineering a victim into pasting PowerShell scripts into the run command window. These incidents have typically begun with the victim attempting to find kind of a YouTube to MP3 converter or similar sort of software, then being redirected to the malicious web page. Within our observations, this has led to LUMMASTEALER being downloaded, where sort of further actions were attempted but unsuccessful due to the sort of security measures that were in place. And this technique is very similar in nature to what we reported on earlier this year with the ClearFake campaign. And the difference being with ClearFake, it was kind of around fake browser updates. In this case, it was kind of a fake human verification button, which is shown here on the right-hand side. Clicking the I'm not a robot button will show these fake verification steps, but it also copies some PowerShell codes to the victim's clipboard. Sorry. If they follow the steps that were on the screen, they end up basically pasting the malicious code into the run command window. The exact code that they did copy is found within the weekly report itself. What that code does do is connect to a URL using a hidden window, and on that URL is a bunch of text, which is another PowerShell script, which is then invoked. And what you see there at the bottom of the screen is the contents of that second PowerShell script that is ran. Across our observed cases, as well as third-party reporting, that the structure of that script remains perfectly consistent, and only really the domain and the file names are changed. So kind of a very consistent PowerShell script that is used across this campaign. And the script kind of does the following. So it uses background intelligence transfer service, or bits, to fetch the archive file. It then downloads it to the temp directory app data. The executable inside, which is LUMMASTEALER, is extracted and executed using start process, and then it is added to the current version run registry key for kind of initial persistence for LUMMASTEALER. We conducted a quick starting analysis of the sample, providing kind of more indicators of compromise in the form of hard code domains. What we saw is a trend of using the .shop domains for command and control if it did get that far. Fortunately, in our cases, it didn't get that far. But a further list of IOCs is also available inside the report itself. Just a few recommendations to finish the really educational users to the threat of browsing to and attempting to download unverified software. So as I mentioned, it was kind of YouTube to MP3 in this case, and also monitoring or alerting for suspicious PowerShell commands, including start bits transfer, invoke expression, and also any new entries into the current version run registry key, important to kind of monitor or threat hunt for. And that's all for me. I'll hand back to you, George.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Really interesting stuff there. And now we go to Mukesh for some news about generative AI. Over to you, Mukesh.
Hi everyone, and thank you, George. So researchers over at HP uncovered a new phishing campaign using AI-generated malware to deliver async rat. Now, the attack involved was an invoice-themed email which contained some HTML smuggling to evade detections, with the malicious attachment deploying some Visual Basic script that altered system registries to execute the malware. Now, what's unique about this delivery method is the code featured, which was highly structured with comments as well as known variables with the addition of lacked obfuscation. This suggests the involvement of the use of a generative AI model. This deployment signals a rapid evolution in AI-assisted cyber attacks, enabling even less skilled attackers to create sophisticated malware and potentially be used to bypass security filters and execute more frequent and complex attacks, as seen in the campaign that HP uncovered. Now, what does this mean? This means that generative AI is potentially and will be possibly lowering the barriers of entry for cyber criminals to create malware. We do recommend users to undergo training regarding phishing emails and ensure there is EDR and NGAV in place. Full details of the story can be found in the report. Back over to you, George.
Thank you very much, Mukesh. And finally, we go to Sarah for our ransomware roundup. Over to you, Sarah.
Thanks, George. We have two updates on the ransomware side. So a new variant of the Malix ransomware has evolved, and they are targeting Linux systems and leveraging the leaked source code of Kryptana ransomware. The Kryptana code was leaked back in February of this year. So with that leak, it was making it publicly accessible for various threat actors to utilize this source code in various attacks and campaigns. Just to note too that Malix was previously a Windows-based malware, so adding this additional tactic of targeting Linux systems is, a new type of evolution for this strain. So the new Malix variant maintains most of the original features of Kryptana, but it has been adapted to exploit vulnerabilities specific to the Linux environments. These adaptations highlights the increasing skill set and the adaptability of the ransomware groups that are using it, posing, pretty significant threats to organizations that do rely on Linux-based infrastructure. So it is currently unknown if the new Malix variant is being used by just maybe one of the affiliates or maybe multiple affiliates that are associated with the group as a whole. And then our next story is El Dorado ransomware. We reported on this ransomware, and it is likely rebranded to BlackLock now, and this is according to their data leak site. So this change was observed this month with when accessing their data leak site, the heading of it now states BL-BlackLock. So this is indicating that they're possibly trying to go by this new rebranding. The URL, the Onion URL, remains the same as it was when it was El Dorado, and they still have at least 16 of their previous victim organizations that they posted while under the name El Dorado. On top of that, the group who is now as we assume going by Blacklock, has added 3 new victims to their data leak site. And then researchers are indicating that the group has also likely kept utilizing the same strand that they have been seeing. So we're keeping up to date just to see what happens with El Dorado, who is now possibly Blacklock. And that is all for me.
Thank you very much, Sarah, and thank you to Ryan and Mukesh for also presenting today. That's all we have time for this week. If you have any comments or questions, please do reach out to us using cti@kroll.com. That's cti@kroll.com. Have a wonderful day.